Hello folks, and welcome to A Train 9 version 3. I've started us off on a familiar journey. We're riding on board our main goods train out towards the stuff that I've been building lately, and there's a lot of it. I have been incredibly busy. So I thought we'd start out by riding the goods train, since that's kind of fundamental to what it is that we're actually making. Nice big subtle solar panel coming up here. I've been involved heavily in creating a new area, and that's working in a circuit, which we'll see in a moment. And that circuit is integrating with other rail services. Now, there was quite a lot of suck it and see, of trial and error involved in getting this working, but it is working now, and it's quite the sight to behold. Now, where we're pulling up to now is our goods marshalling area, and I've built this to help fuel future expansion. As you can see, end of the line, but there is plenty of distance to go, especially if you look at the map here. Hold on, let's just pause the game so I can have a look at that. If you have a look at the map, we're right here, and tell you what, why don't I make it bigger? There we go. We're right here, and then there's this whole other chunk of land which does lead off to many various wonderful and wild places, and we'll have a look at those in the future. But for now, let's get things moving again. Let's up the tempo ever so slightly. So it's the wee small hours of Sunday morning, and this marshalling area, as you can see, we've got a truck stop there. Everybody's fully loaded and ready to go, and we're actually oversupplying it a little at the moment. One of the things that has taken a hit in the last, well, in this area that I've been building up, is the profitability of our freight services. And there's several reasons for that. I mean, the first and foremost of which is that several of the older districts are now fully stocked up in terms of goods. And so as I've been moving things around, it's not always been the most efficient. You know, I've recycled trucks onto new lines in order to get goods to where they actually need to go. I'm trying to avoid buying more goods shipping services than I actually need, in the hope of keeping costs down. Of course, my most significant cost is still tax, and the biggie there is property tax. So even stations and things like that, the more space you use up, the more profit, the more tax you have to pay. Right, let's zoom out from here. We'll probably shoot off again in a moment. Oh no, he's done his run for the day. So here we are back at kind of factory central, and as you can see, very well stocked. We've got 3 factories running now. We're just about keeping pace with the amount that they're creating. And then if we come and look over here out towards what I believe is our tourist districts right here, you know, it's all growing really quite nicely. And then out here we kind of look and have a quick peek towards our terminal, and again, you know, it's all grown up quite nicely. But in the distance there, you can see the magnificent horizon that represents what I've been building since you've been away, and it's been a lot of fun. I had to remind myself that I actually needed to record something at some point. So where are we? We're Sunday morning. You want to see trains running, right? Do you want to see trains running? No, let's talk you through it, and then we'll ride the trains. So previously we had 2 services coming in here. This is passenger services, of course, one of which would come from this direction over here, out towards tourist area and beyond. The other of which would come from kind of the old city, call it the old city, it's really not that old, along with, you know, our biggest skyscrapers are heading out in this direction. And I mean, if you recall the previous episode, I had managed to make it so that they used this shared line without bumping into each other. Let's up the tempo a little bit. We should have a good service kick. Oh no, it doesn't kick off until after midnight. So yes, so that's where we were up to last time, and I just built this convoluted junction here, which is, you know, it's really quite splendid when you look at it, out towards this new area. And as you can see, the new area has filled in no uncertain terms. It has filled in. it's got all of the mod cons. I just recently built a marina, which won't. Oh, it is, which is already profitable. But these two trains are both running on a circuit, and that circuit follows out here. I'll try and do this in such a way that it doesn't look terrible. So it follows round into, yep, another new district where we've got a skyscraper going up at the moment. This is ready for future expansion out in this direction as well. And this area of track here is single, and that caused me an awful lot of pain trying to get these two to loop correctly together. We then flow underneath here. All of this is being supplied by trucks rather than trains, and we'll see those going shortly, I imagine. We're coming around to this station here, which again is new, and the interesting, maybe a subjective word to use, is that this actually uses this resource depot as well as this smaller stockyard here, and I've put that smaller one in order to fuel this side of town. The downside, of course, is it's not getting enough supplies in order to grow in a really significant fashion. So I might need to revisit that in a little while. Equally, you know, a few more roads out here wouldn't go amiss. In fact, I think I'll stick one in now, just in case these chaps on the end decide to expand further. Let's get this rolling. I'm not going to be able to get it under that bridge. Not that it has anywhere to go if it gets there. Equally, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. We try and avoid going across the lumpy ground where possible, because the only real alternative is to flatten it out, and that's not always that doesn't always lead to a positive look. Ah, there we go. Look, if we link that up to here, yes, we're going through a few fields. 32 grand, blimey. 32 grand. Well, that would be cheap. 32 million. Okay, well, you know, needs must. Expansion is what we're all about, and roads are the key to that particular goal. Cancel that. I want to link onto here. Yeah, there. That's right. Let's take it across this way. One like that, and there we go. Okay, that's given it a little bit more space to build, I suppose. Right, so, where the hell was I? I was over here talking about this smaller depot, this small depot here. And, yeah, it's largely working. As you can see, it's not fully stocked, and I've got that being supplied by one truck. And then, of course, we've got over here, we've got a larger depot, and that's largely draining itself. It's down in the other end of town that... excuse me, that we're kind of oversupplying. But this is the area that we're going to be expanding from next, and I don't actually have a plan at the moment. I think I'll probably put a station really quite soon in here, and I don't know where to go. Possibly end up with a terminal here. I don't know. It seems a bit odd, though, doesn't it? I mean, you know, we could just as easily link it back onto the track. Oh yeah, that will cause me a headache. Yes, we'll do that. Okay, I'll lead this track round here over the other side, back onto there, and then we can have a second loop going on here, which I'm sure will... No, it's not going to work at all. And it's not going to work at all because of this bridge section. Now, I had to rebuild the whole of this in order to get rail from here round onto the other side of this circuit. And being able to set points in order to get it going the opposite direction, I just don't feel it's going to work. Unless we go the opposite direction, of course. No, that's not going to do it. See, what we want is a set of points that come from... Oh, hold on, we could break set off from here. Redevelop this two-tracker. Anyway, here's the goods marshalling area, as we saw right at the beginning, and you know, it's basic but handsome. I could probably benefit from having more than one truck stop, but the one that I've got is, you know, it's operating fine. You know, there's nothing to complain about there. And right on cue, here comes our goods service coming in now to top it up ahead of the start of the week. Now, usually by the end of the week we are overflowing on goods. In fact, if this... No, he hasn't got time to do a second one. No, he's not doing a second one. But we're now... Oh, how far are we away? We're about 3 hours away from the start of passenger services of the day, which is a lovely place to be. So let's follow the action here. And that means following this chap here, because I've done something interesting with his timetable, and I will show you that after we've watched him do a day's work. So if we up our speed just a touch here, we'll see everything fall into place, and there'll be some pausing while I show you just how clever I actually am. Not that clever, really. It's actually pretty straightforward. So I believe our first departure of the day is 7 AM. I like 7 AM as a departure time. I've tried going a bit earlier, but there's no money to be made for it. So off we go. Oh, that's too fast. Here we go. So we've pulled into here at 7, and if we just hold off... Yep, there we go. What you can see right there, that's one train that is coming in from our tourist district that is going to come over here, down this one, and wiggle over onto this line here. Right. We've then got from the old town, from the original builds, the second train has just appeared on the horizon and will come down this main line and slot into this station. Okay, there you go. See them coming? Yep, just about. Okay, well, you'll see them more clearly later on in the day. Trucks, obviously, have started getting to work. Now, where I bumped into problems after waiting at this station was on the single piece of track coming up just on the corner. And I think 4 times is probably our optimum. You can see here comes our compatriot on this loop as we set out in the opposite direction. Brief stop here. Still waiting for this skyscraper to be completed. Plenty of rebar hanging out the top of it. And then back into home base. So far, so good. You know, no real dramas there. And from the looks of it, you would say, well, look, it looks like these two trains are running in exactly the same time pattern. Except they're not, because this one doesn't actually go out into that merged track area to interfere with other services. So what I've actually set up on this train, if you can see, the station I want to go into is currently occupied. Oh, and look at that, as if by magic, it left at the moment that I started moving. And that's really the secret to running multi-train kind of interfacing tracks. Running circuits is always going to be tricky, because obviously an inside line is going to run at a different speed to an outside line, because there's more less track to cover. But you know, it's worth it to see trains properly integrating, and I haven't really broken the surface of this yet. I think I've just got started. I've got my appetite built up to be doing exciting things with timetabling. I mean, you know, it's something I've wanted to see, but my capabilities thus far have not been tremendous. Right, let's ride on board for the remainder of the day. Let's slow it down. Look at that for a view. So this elevated section is, you know, it's really rather splendid. You know, there's a good view of, you know, a great deal of concrete and steel and glass. And we're going to leave. Yep, there we go. Yeah, pulling into the other station. Possibly going a little bit faster than is comfortable for viewing. So what we can't see from here, because I'm facing the wrong way, is that the other train will be coming in literally as we leave. And again, this is down to some judicious timing on my part. So here we go. Well, I don't need to say anything really. Let's just enjoy the view. But no, I mean, this is, when it comes down to it, this is the greatest strength that A Train has, is the views you get in the game. I mean, the graphics are a little cartoony, they're a little bit simplistic, but it's pretty stunning stuff. I mean, much like Minecraft, really. You know, you think about Minecraft and the fact that it's just cubes, but you see something impressive from a good distance away, and the view is really quite spectacular. Well, I mean, obviously, you know, this this is significantly more appealing than Minecraft in its appearance. And look at that! Look, the city all lit up on the horizon. You know, magnificent stuff. This is what it's about. I mean, you know, the game's a long way from being perfect, but in terms of, you know, just a bit of general appeal and the speed at which you can build stuff, it's really fabulous. And I think that as I'm playing through this series, I mean, I was thinking of abandoning it, but in terms of appeal, you know, I've definitely got the bug again. Okay, another fairly short stop, and we'll go off again. In fact, I'm gonna continue riding the train. It's so good to look at overnight that why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I? So we'll currently be sat here waiting for the service to leave the station that we're heading into. And this is what it comes down to. And when we roll around to Tuesday, we're currently on Monday. When we roll around to Tuesday, I will talk you through exactly how I've accomplished that, because it's laughably simplistic. But it took me ages to figure out. So there we go. As you can see, train was just disappearing over onto the horizon as we turned up. Right, let's get out of this one. Let's get out of that one. And let's go follow his team. Now his teammate's done for the day. Okay, right. Well, there you go. So that's you know, that's what we're currently rolling with. I think while we're waiting for morning, let's go and have a look at what else we've got going on. Let's check out some views. Let's get some screenshot fodder up. Nice, splendid stuff. Absolutely splendid. You know what? I might have a look at modding some of the billboards and building sides on this. I don't know how easy it's going to be, but I'm sure we can come up with something suitably glorious. But, you know, we've got quite a handsome looking city, and you know, the map now shows just how much of it we've spread over. There's a lot more to do, and certainly what I want to be doing is, you know, if I manage to follow through and complete this playthrough, I'll want to have infilled virtually every section of land in the game. And that won't all be trained. There'll be a hell of a lot of trains, don't doubt that. But we'll build some truck and bus services to try and get things rolling in every conceivable part of the landscape, because you know, I think that could look rather Blade Runner in the way that it's done. Okay, right. So our looped passenger service, our circuit service here, is coming in now. Right, let's have a look at the timetable assistant. Okay, so usually, in fact, let's not look at his first. Let's look at the other one. Let's look at number 8. Right, this is the standard timetable that I use. And I use the departure time, setting a 7:30 in the morning takeoff with a 45-minute wait at this station, just at this station, every time it comes in, with a last possible departure of 10 p.m. running on weekdays only. Okay, pretty straightforward stuff. And that's what I run on every train service across the entire map so far. They don't all take off at the same time. They don't all run every day of the week. They have different levels. They have different amounts of pause required, just in order to make things work. Particularly for this station here. In order to make that work, I've tweaked the amount of time that the train coming from the tourist area and the train coming from the old town, I've tweaked the amount that they actually wait so that they don't have a collision at this junction here. And providing nothing collides with them, that will work just dandy. But now we come round to our new train here. Timetable assistant, and instead of using departure time, which is the standard one, we've gone for individual departures. Now, I ran departure times to start with, and I tweaked it and I adjusted it and I played with it and I tried it and I mingled with it and all of these other things. Could not get it to work. It would collide with one train, or it'd be waiting to get into the station, no matter how I set that up. So what I've done now is I've set it on a timer. So the first time it's going to leave is exactly 7 a.m. And then the second time is at 12 p.m. and then 4:15 and then 9 p.m. So those are the times. Those are the only times I've had to set. The rest of the time it's using, so the rest of its route, in fact, if we set that running, for the rest of its route, it's using the standard, wait 30 minutes, wait 45 minutes, however long is necessary. And you'll see this in full operation in 4.5 hours. Okay, right, we can just slightly zip through 4.5 hours, I think. So 7 a.m. is our departure. Now, there's a limitation to the game, which is that you can only have 1,000 individual departure times set. Which, much like anything, when you see I've got 1,000 of these waiting for me, it seems like a lot when you're looking at the 1,000 number, but actually in reality it's really not going to be enough. So if you think I've got 4 departures on this train, well, that would mean I could do the same for 250 trains. Well, that's plenty, but that also covers buses and trucks and everything else. So by the time you've got 50, 60, 100, 200 trains all going on, you can see that the number of individual departures you can set starts to become limited. Anyway, here we are. We're pulling into this merge station here. And what I tried to do, I tried to get really clever with it so that there were, literally just minutes in between each service coming in. But when it came down to it, that made it more difficult to avoid collisions further along the track. So I just left it as is. This is a 20-minute stop only because I want to clear this station as quickly as possible so that I guess we could call this the mainline service, so the mainline service can get in without being interrupted. And then we roll around the side here. Hello, Mr. Truck. Keep going straight. It obviously knows where it's going already, so I don't actually need to interfere with the timetable. And here we go again. Standard stop. 45-minute wait at this one. And the reason this is longer, usually I'd set it for about 30 minutes. The reason it's longer is to allow the other service on the loop to clear this section here, as you will see it do now. And again, I looked at tweaking this so that it would literally be the other train just cleared as it came through. I thought, well, that would make me swish, wouldn't it? But frankly, it just made for other complications. So there you go. Yeah, so that'll more or less cover it. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to proceed on a circuit-based services. Let's follow this chap around on his journey a little bit. Yeah, the temptation, of course, will be, as I get further along, is to put, a really high-speed service running around the entire circuit, but I'm not going to do that. I like the point-to-point stuff I've got set up right now. I'll probably do a bit more of it, but I will look at, setting up a bullet train of some description in the future. The biggest one right now is simply being able to get to a point where we're profitable. Now, all of my subsidiaries are profitable. The only reason they're not right now is because I've built some already. Warehouses, that's the biggie though. We're burning 100 grand on warehousing. We're burning 300 grand on truck services, and that's because I haven't balanced out goods correctly at present. So that's something that I will be looking into. I'll hopefully have that resolved in the near future, because I'm having to play the stock market on average once a year in order to bring in an extra $500 million just to cover my tax. It's ludicrous. But, it doesn't interfere with the enjoyment of the game. To be honest, it would almost be sensible to have unlimited cash, kind of cheap in action. But I'm going to try and get up to the point where for profits I'm entirely self-sustaining. That's the hope. Anyway. Equally, power plants, built a few more of those lately, because energy, we were over-indexing on the amount of energy that we actually had. So I stuck some new ones in a moment ago. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I've been Colonel Failure. Leave me a comment or two. How do you like it? What do you want to see built? Or am I, fine just getting on with it as I have been doing? I'll catch up with you very soon. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. And we'll talk in the near future. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Cheerio.
This